So in this video we're going to be talking about Lord Kaan, the leader of the Brotherhood of Darkness, who lived in about roughly 1000 BBY, and he's the Sith that set off the thought bomb, that Darth Bane aimed to overcome and get rid of him and start the Sith fresh. And it's because of this, because Darth Bane doesn't approve of Lord Kaan and wants to get rid of him and start the Sith from the beginning. It's because of this that people get a bad image of Lord Kaan and think that he's some weak Sith Lord that isn't worth being anywhere near the top Sith Lords of all time. Lord Kaan rejects the ancient Sith, rejects the teachings of the ancient Sith, and sort of does his own thing. And I'm going to get into the exact philosophy of Lord Kaan in a different video, and how he actually becomes this dark side god. But in this video I'm just going to be explaining the evidence that Lord Kaan actually is a dark side god. And to begin there, we won't go too in depth on it, because I'm going to be explaining how he gets to this state, how he becomes this god, the how and why in a different video. But essentially Kaan forges his own philosophy and his new pathway to power through the Force. And that's why he's rejected by the ancient Sith, that's why he's rejected by Darth Bane. But it's a difference in philosophy more so than, Kaan's just weak and a bitch. That's not the case at all. It's a key difference in philosophy more so than a difference in power. And remember that, because that's going to be important in a second. But for now I'm just going to establish that Lord Kaan, and not his nickname or title if you will, is the Dark One. And the Brotherhood is called, they're referred to as the Dark Ones. So Lord Kaan, the Dark One, is the leader of the Brotherhood of Darkness, of course, that does this sort of Jedi-inspired philosophy. He's not your typical Sith. It's up for debate whether you can even call him a Sith. And I plan on doing a video on this, actually going into whether Lord Kaan is actually a Sith or if he's just some sort of dark Jedi or Sith-inspired splinter group. And I'll go into that in depth, because again there's a lot going into that. I don't want to cover all these topics in one, because the video will end up being about 3 hours. And similarly, there's a different group in the New Republic that you can't actually consider, you might not consider Sith, but are followers of the dark side, a different cult, and that is the Prophets of the Dark Side. I've talked about Kadan in my most recent video, and the Supreme Prophet of the Prophets of the Dark Side. You can go check that out. But the Supreme Prophets are a dark side splinter group started by Darth Millennial back in the day. Darth Millennial was, you get Darth Bane, then you get Darth Zana, Darth Cognos, and then Darth Millennial was Darth Cognos' apprentice, who was a Sith apostate who split off from the Order of the Sith Lords and created his own faction, the Prophets of the Dark Side. And they carry on up until the New Rebellion. And that's where we see Kadan, the Prophet of the Dark Side, the Supreme Prophet of the Dark Side, who is an equal of the original trilogy, Emperor Palpatine. I've done a video on this. And of course, Darth Millennial was the Sith who, was ultimately inspired to make this splinter group, the Dark Side Prophets, because he didn't believe in Darth Bane's doctrine, the Rule of Two, and instead favoured Kaan's rule by the strong philosophy. And Abel Pena talks about this in his blog Evil Never Dies, Sith Dynasties on StarWars.com. Abel Pena actually being the creator of Darth Millennial, and he says that Darth Millennial favoured Lord Kaan's cutthroat rule by the strong, instead of Darth Bane's Rule of Two. So this Prophets of the Dark Side cult is created by Darth Millennial, who is a follower of Lord Kaan. So we've got Lord Kaan having an entirely different philosophy to the normal Sith, and then we've got the Prophets of the Dark Side having an entirely different philosophy to the normal Sith. And it just so happens that the Prophets of the Dark Side were inspired, or as far as we know, inspired by Lord Kaan. Millennial was inspired by Lord Kaan to create the Prophets of the Dark Side. So the Brotherhood of Darkness and the Prophets of the Dark Side are basically two separate factions entirely from the Sith or the Jedi.
And there's actually a connection between the two groups, a very subtle but a very important connection.
In the novel Jedi Prince, Mission from Mount Yoda, Kadan, who is of course the leader of the Prophets of the Dark Side, gets possessed by this spirit. And Jedgar, the second in command, the High Prophet of the Prophets of the Dark Side, is like, yo, who is the new leader? I don't understand, like, what you on about. And Kadan speaks, or this spirit speaks through Kadan and says that eyes cannot behold the new ruler, for the new ruler is the Dark One of ancient times. The Dark One, of course, being Lord Kaan of the Brotherhood of Darkness, and Abel Pena also confirms this in another blog, the State of the Galactic Civil War, where he talks about Kadan and says that the Prophets of the Dark Side, mentioning the Dark One of ancient times, means they are worshipping Lord Kaan. And the interesting thing here is that as soon as Kadan declares that he is the Dark One of ancient times, that the Dark One is now speaking through him, as soon as he says that, Jedgar immediately concludes that that means, he knows what it means. Jedgar knows exactly what this means and knows that Kadan has now declared himself the spokesman for all the dark side energy in the galaxy. The Dark One of ancient times and the source for all the darkness in the galaxy are treated as two synonymous things. If you are the Dark One of ancient times, you are the source of all darkness in the galaxy, which means that Lord Kaan is the source of power for the Prophets of the Dark Side. He's not just a figure that inspired Darth Millennial to create the Prophets of the Dark Side, but he's actually a figure of worship, a key central figure, a deity in the Prophets of the Dark Side, and in their religion, which is the Dark Force religion. So Kaan has managed to make his spirit the source for all of the Dark Force energy in the galaxy. How exactly, I'll cover in a video to come. So Lord Kaan's spirit is the source of all the power in the universe for the Dark Side Prophets, whom of course follow the Dark Force religion. So Lord Kaan is a central figure. He is a god of the Dark Force religion. You know, he's the god of the Dark Force. He is that central source of power. He is their power. And what's interesting is Abel Pena, you know, the same person that talks about Kadan, that talks about Lord Kaan being the Dark One of ancient times, he also directly acknowledges that Sith spirits aren't as powerful as their living counterparts, you know, which is a widely established fact in the lore. You know, the KOTOR Primer Guide talks about this. And to channel power, you need flesh, you need a body, and Sith spirits retain the power that they had when they were alive, but they just can't channel that through without a body. So that's why you always see Sith spirits, you know, trying to possess someone, trying to get a body, trying to get a vessel for them to inhabit. So Lord Kaan's spirit is the source of power for Kadan, who I've talked about in my last video is an equal to Emperor Palpatine. So Kadan is an equal to Emperor Palpatine because of Lord Kaan, because Lord Kaan is that strong, and because Lord Kaan is the source of Kadan's power.
And of course, if Kadan's power is equal to Emperor Palpatine, and the source of Kadan's power is Lord Kaan's spirit, then Lord Kaan is equal, if not more powerful than Emperor Palpatine. It would be Emperor Palpatine in the original trilogy.
And of course, I can see the obvious contention with this is that Darth Bane is obviously far more powerful than Lord Kaan. That's obvious. Lord Kaan is driven mad by Darth Bane's power. And then, you know, Darth Bane, the Baneite line grows from Darth Bane up until, you know, the Sith of the prequels, Darth Sidious, Darth Maul, Count Dooku, Darth Vader. So how on earth is Lord Kaan stronger than Return of the Jedi Sidious or original trilogy Sidious? And, you know, that's to do with when Palpatine's prime is, and I'm not going to go fully into that in this video, but I'm just going to clear it up because I know that a lot of people are going to be thinking this. There's actually a massive drop-off in Palpatine's power after Revenge of the Sith, with the crippling of Vader and with the death of the Jedi. And you might be thinking, what? I'll get into this in a different video because that's all really cool stuff. But if you want to start on that topic, watch my Web of Power Living Force video. I go into the sort of the basics of this. You're going to need to watch that video to fully understand the next video where I'll fully explain this concept. So being more powerful than the original trilogy Palpatine does not make you more powerful than Palpatine in general, and of course we'll get into this in a future video. I've done 2 blogs on the topics of this video. I've done a Lord Kaan respect thread, you can go and check that out, I'll link it in the description, and I've done a Lord Kaan, a dark side god blog, where I essentially just go into the topic on this video, the evidence that Lord Kaan is in fact a dark side god, of the dark prophets, the prophets of the dark side. But if you like this video and enjoy this type of stuff, you know, looking into the mechanics of things, you know, the little connections that you might not get onto, then give us a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video, where I'll probably be talking about the Phantom Menace and the power of the Jedi of the Phantom Menace and the Sith of the Phantom Menace.